Setting up of business outside India and issues relating to this. This is lesson number 11. So in lesson number 11 we study how can an Indian company open business in a foreign country. So the best example is, for example, Tata has opened in foreign. We have Adani Group which has opened in Australia. We have the Reliance Group which has opened in Israel. So there are many things like this. So till 1991 this was totally prohibited, and India had the first policy for Indian company to open in foreign country in the year 1992. So till 1992 Indian company could not open anything in a foreign country. Here we have to study Companies Act and more importantly Foreign Exchange Management Act. So when Foreign Exchange Management Act came in the year 2000, it became very easy for all the Indian companies to invest abroad. Wipro, Sun Pharma are some of the examples where Indian companies have invested abroad and they have been very successful. So this is a very good provision which will help not only Indian companies to grow in India but to open business in foreign countries. In FEMA we have basically two routes, automatic route and government approval route. As the name goes, automatic rule says there are some rules for you to make investment abroad. If you follow the rules, you don't have to take anybody's permission. You should only give intimation to the Reserve Bank of India. You should file the necessary papers. In approval route, we call it as two types. Again, in approval route, there are two types. One thing is prior approval. Before you even go to the transaction, you have to take prior approval of Reserve Bank of India. The second type is government approval route, where after you do the transaction or during the transaction, you are taking the approval from the Reserve Bank of India, and that is the only way for you to do business outside India. So when you do a business outside India, there are many factors. What is the cost? What is the location? What is the politics of the country? Is it a democracy, autocracy? Is it what kind of country it is? Do they have freedoms? All that you have to decide before you make an investment. So we study all these factors. Why are we studying all this? Because tomorrow as a company secretary, you should advise your clients if they want to open business outside India. We also study the method of funding, and we have to remember that 400% of the net worth of the company is allowed for investment outside India. I will be telling all that in detail, but in this introduction, if you understand that Indian companies can open abroad and they have to follow Foreign Exchange Management Act and Companies Act, it is more than sufficient for you. So now let us study this chapter in full detail.
This is the chapter relating to setting up of a business outside India and all the issues relating thereto. Here, first thing we should understand is, what is this? Outside India means we should know the political map of India. So India has borders. Yes, this is not geography class, but for you to understand what we are trying to say. So this is the map of India. So setting up of a business outside India means outside the geographical borders of India, and whatever the issues are relating thereto we are studying. Before, we were very bothered about how to bring foreign money into India, how to bring US money, how to bring Russia money, how to bring Singapore money, how we can have foreign direct investment. So that is what we have studied in FEMA also. But here we are doing overseas direct investment. So India is investing in another country. So the India means Indian companies, Indian individuals, businesses, whatever. So we have famous examples like Reliance or the Adani Group. So these companies are investing outside India because India is one of the most developing countries now, and yes, there is a lot to be done in India. We still have poverty, we have so many issues, but still the Indian businesses have money where now they can invest abroad, which will indirectly help India also. So in this chapter, we study all the rules relating to setting up of a business outside India. Now, let us look at the structure and the process involved when we have to invest money outside India. So if we have to give money outside India, what is the process and what is the structure involved? So the first one, let us have a look at the introduction. In 1991, foreign investment policies were changed and it opened the opportunity for foreign investments to enter the Indian territory. So before this, let us try to understand a little bit of history. See, we all know that in the year 1947 we got the independence, and India was adopting a very conservative economic system because they were ruled by British over 300 to 350 years. So that is why they adopted the Soviet Union model, the Russian model, what you used to call as USSR that time. It was a socialist economy. So there was huge restrictions for foreign investment into India because India was going through a lot of problems for 300 to 350s, almost 400 years. They were ruled by the British. So because of all these issues, India was very, very conservative. They were very scared for any foreign money to come to India for business. Because as we all know, in the year 1600, East India Company came to India to do business. But they took the control of the country. They also plundered the country. They made the richest country as one of the poorest in 300 to 350 years. So that is why India was very conservative. But from 1947 to 1991, India had a lot of problems, and 1991 we were one of the biggest economic crisis India was facing. People were very poor, there were no jobs, the economy was doing very badly, GDP rate was less. So that is why we all know very well the LPG, which Dr. Manmohan Singh was the finance minister that time in PV Narasimha Rao government. So Dr. Manmohan Singh, who later became the Prime Minister of India, was one of the chief architects along with PV Narasimha Rao, Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, who made sure that India adopted the LPG, that is liberalization, privatization, globalization. During that time in 1991, foreign investment policies were changed, and for the first time after independence, foreign investments were allowed to enter India. This we usually call it as foreign direct investment, or FDI. So this made Indian eligible to set up business abroad also. So it is the other way around also, because we allowed our foreign money to come here, same way Indian money could be set up abroad. Even to make investment abroad, it was a new regime and it was allowed. The policy on the Indian investments overseas was first liberalized in 1992. 1991 we had LPG, but 92 the Indian investments overseas. That means the Indian money, Indian national rupees, will be invested in a foreign country, in a foreign business or foreign company, whatever it is. But it will be invested outside India. INR will be invested outside. Then finally, in the year 2000, what we call as the Foreign Exchange Management Act, it changed the entire perspective relating to investment abroad, but more of management of foreign exchange and not regulations. So the FEMA was a very big game changer for the foreign investments. So according to the Reserve Bank of India, ODI, what we call as the overseas direct investment, means investment either under automatic or approval route by way of contribution to capital or purchase of shares of foreign entity by market, private or stock exchange with long-term interest that is different from portfolio investment. So it is not portfolio investment. We are investing in capital or we are purchasing shares of a foreign entity, that is in the market or privately we are taking, or through the stock exchange. No matter how, but we are acquiring companies abroad, we are acquiring businesses abroad, and that is what the Reserve Bank of India calls broadly as overseas direct investment. So ODI includes investment of capital, purchase of shares. You can do the investment of the capital or purchase of shares through the open market or privately or through the stock exchange of that particular country. Now that you know the brief of what is overseas direct investment, let us look at some of the major investments by Indian companies. This is just examples so that you know what I'm trying to say. So Reliance Industries of India invested around US dollars 25 million US dollars. So that is very important. 25 million US dollars they invested in the Jerusalem Innovation Incubator in Israel. Then we had the Adani Group, which has invested in the Carmichael Mine and Rail projects, mainly based in Australia, 16.5 billion. Or Aurobindo Pharma of India has invested around $147 million. Okay, yes, they're investing in INR, but that is equal to how much dollars they're giving. Okay, end of the day, it is Indian money only what they're investing. Then we had the Mothersome Sumi Systems Limited, then Sun Pharmaceuticals. These are some of the Indian companies which has invested abroad. So you don't have to remember these numbers. This is just example for you to know how Indian companies have been investing abroad. So let us have a look at what we are trying to see relating to the other concepts. Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. So this is the act, the FEMA. This act was a game changer. As you know, we had the liberalization in 1991, but then that time we had the FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act 1973 or something like that. That was the year. This was the law, and it was a very strict law. It was called as a draconian law relating to foreign investment. So it was almost like no for everything. But FEMA is one of the game changers for our information. Now, as I was telling you about FEMA and FERA, let us look at what is this FEMA 1999. So, investment by Indian entities overseas, that is in joint venture and wholly owned subsidiaries, as also investment by a person resident in India in shares and securities issued outside India. So, there may be a person in India. He wants to buy shares of a company in United States of America. That is allowed. Investment by Indian entities. So there may be a company in India, okay, who wants to have a joint venture in USA, England, Australia. I'm just giving you some country names, example. Correct? Or if you want to have a wholly owned subsidiary, that means 100% of the foreign company. So let us say there is a company in, for example, Denmark. So Indian company can become 100% shareholder of a Denmark company. That is what we call as a wholly owned subsidiary, and that is allowed in FEMA 1999. Overseas investment broadly are two routes. The first one we call it as the automatic route, and the second one is called as the approval route. Automatic route is the guidelines which is given by FEMA and RBI. So within that amount which is given under the guidelines, we'll come to that. If you do the investment, you don't need any permission because there is a general permission that is called as automatic route. But if you want to invest money which is more than what is prescribed in automatic route, then you must take specific approval of the Reserve Bank of India for doing that kind of overseas investment. So again, I'm telling you, overseas. So it is crossing the Indian border, overseas investment. So any investment by Indian or Indian company outside India. So eligibility, entities which are referred to as Indian party. So from that time I'm telling Indian company or Indian party can invest outside India. Who are they? The first one is company. When we say company, we may refer to private company or public limited company. Okay. Limited liability partnership, partnership firm, or other entity notified by the Reserve Bank. If Reserve Bank says some other entity can invest, such other entity will also be allowed to invest. So here we understood what are the companies or what are the entities which can invest. Now let us look at the prohibitions. The Indian parties. When we say Indian parties, it refers to company, LLP, partnership firm or other entity which is notified by RBI. So Reserve Bank should tell, apart from partnership, LLP company, who else can invest. So if RBI notifies it, such other person. So Indian parties prohibited from making investments which are engaged in real estate. Suppose there is a real estate project in a foreign country. Simply let us say in China there is a real estate project, or in Malaysia there is a real estate project. we cannot invest. So prohibition is there for making investment in foreign entity which is engaged in real estate or banking business. So for obvious reasons, RBI is telling no, it can even be danger to the security of India and other issues. And one more thing, if we allow, those countries will ask, see, we have allowed you to invest in real estate in our country, please allow us to invest real estate in India. So to avoid that problem, India is telling Indian companies, Indian entity, Indian parties, LLP partnership cannot invest in real estate or banking business abroad. Okay, but there are some exceptions. But does not include development of township. So if you're just developing the township, you're not owning any real estate, you're giving some services like architecture services, etc. That is okay. So it is not real estate. It is not real estate, it is development of township. You can invest in a foreign entity also. Construction of residential and commercial premises. So construction of residential and commercial premises, you are not owning the land, you are only constructing it. So such a business, even Indian partners can invest abroad. Suppose there is a company in Singapore, they want some investment from India for construction of residential or commercial premises, that is allowed, but real estate is not allowed. Real estate is where you are owning the land, and activities like development of the land with the sale of the land, where you are partly owning the land or fully owning the land, that is not allowed. But you can construct, you can develop township, that is allowed, no problem, because you are not having ownership of the land. Roads and bridges, same thing, you are just building the road, you are not owning the road, right? Road is always with the government of that particular country. So you can own the invest in companies which are making road or bridges in abroad under the overseas direct investment, but not in real estate or banking. So very simple, real estate banking, if there is a foreign company, we cannot invest that. Okay, so without prior approval of the RBI. So if you want to invest, you need to take prior approval of RBI if you want to invest in such entities. Next we come to automatic route, very important for exam. So please listen carefully. According to the regulation 6 of notification, you don't have to remember all this thing. Amendment, the amendment has come. Indian party has been permitted to make investment or undertake financial commitment overseas. Any financial commitment up to US dollars, as you can see here, $1 billion US dollars. And that is under automatic route. So if you want to tell, oh, I want to invest more than 1 billion, you can go for approval route. So as you can see here, we have the automatic route and the approval route, correct? If you want to do more than 1 billion US dollar, it is not million, it is 1 billion. So if you, that it's a lot of money, but still if you want to do more, it's okay. You have to go under the approval route. You have to get approval from the Reserve Bank of India if you want to do more than US dollars 1 billion investment. So now, apart from that, this is the next important thing you should know for exam. The eligible limit of investment under this route is 400% of net worth of the Indian party as per the balance sheet. So in balance sheet, you know very well, even in MGT7 we enter net worth. Let us say there is some company, the net worth of that company is, let us say 500 crores. So 500 crores into 400% means 4 times. That means 2000 crores. So this company can invest 2000 crores, but it should not be exceeding 1 billion US dollar. You should convert it and see if it is exceeding 1 billion US dollars, that 2000 crores. So let us take a simple example. If it is 5 crores, they can invest into 4. 20 crores they can invest is the maximum limit. So you cannot say no, they can invest 1 billion. Yes, 1 billion is maximum limit, but for that you should see what is your net worth. So your net worth into 4. 400% is nothing but into 4. If any foreign contribution is exceeding 1 billion in a financial year, in one financial year, it would require prior approval of the Reserve Bank. That is what I told you. The Reserve Bank, even when the total financial contribution, foreign contribution is within the eligible limit. So even if it is within eligible limit, if you are going beyond 1 billion in 1 year, you must take the permission. Okay, this is very important for us to know. So for any remittances, the Indian party should approach the authorized dealer, that is the bank, okay, and they have to make an application in form ODI. So form ODI is the form in which they can make the application for foreign investment. Next, the investment or financial commitments are subject to the conditions. So again, for exam, you may get this for 3 to 4 marks. Okay. Yes, Indian company can invest abroad, but then we should have a look at it carefully. Please remember, what are the conditions? Loans and guarantees can be extended to joint venture and wholly owned subsidiaries only. You cannot just give loan guarantee to somebody. Then it will be very difficult for India to control, or it may even deal with other things like terrorism, etc. Suppose there is a company A in India, they invest in a company B abroad. So now if that company wants to give to some other company C loan and guarantee, if it is not related, no. That is why loans and guarantees can be given only to joint ventures and wholly owned subsidiaries of company B in which we are investing, so that we can keep track of where the money is going from India. This is a very important thing. This is also relating to safety and security of India. That is why they made this rule. The proposals may be forwarded to their constituents after the ensuring the permission of incorporation of a company without equity participation by Indian entity. Though this is important for us to know. The proposals may be forwarded to their constituents after ensuring the permission for incorporation. So you should get permission for incorporation without equity participation by Indian party. So these are the conditions which we have to understand. Then the party should be on the Reserve Bank's. The party should not be on Reserve Bank exporters caution list. So caution list means, suppose there is a company which is already in under some investigation or fraud, or they've done some non-compliance, such company will be in the caution list. So they should not be in the Reserve Bank of India's exporters caution list of defaulters. So if they've we know very well, we have allegation is there against Vijay Mallya. Yes, as a student of law, you should say allegation, because it is not yet proven guilty. Indian government and Indian bank is telling he has defaulted, but first of all he should come back to India, only then we can try him in the court. Same way in Nirav Modi case, Mehul Choksky, like that. So the Indian party should not be on the caution list of defaulters to the banking system which is given by the Reserve Bank on or CIBIL. So if you are already in that kind of list, you are not allowed to invest abroad, because already you are non-compliant with the law. In case of partial or full acquisition of existing foreign company, where investment is more than US dollars 5 million and swap of shares, valuation of the shares. So this is the further condition. The investments are subject to the conditions. What condition? If it is a partial or full acquisition of existing foreign company, the investment is more than US dollars 5 million and swap of shares and valuation of shares is done. All transactions should be routed through one branch of the authorized dealer, because again people should not use this for money laundering. Money laundering is where they will go through placement layer integration, where they will take the ill-gotten money, criminal money, and they will convert it to legal money. Something like converting black money to white money, like that. So all transactions should be in one branch, not one bank, one single branch of the bank by the Indian party, so that it is easy for Indian government to track. So they made the rule, you can make investment, everything, but it should be in one branch, one bank. And the investment will have to be made by category 1 merchant banker registered with the SEBI or an investment company. So you have to make the investment by a category 1 merchant banker. Only through a merchant banker you can make the investment. In exchange of ADR, GDR issued to the letter in accordance with the scheme of the FCCB Ordinary Shares Mechanism 1993 and guidelines issued from time to time by Government of India. So if there is any exchange of ADR, GDR, you should follow this FCCB Ordinary Shares Scheme 1993 and you should follow all the rules. That is simple. Banker outside India registered with the appropriate regulatory authority in the host country. So the foreign bank which we are dealing with has to be a bank which is registered with the Reserve Bank of that foreign country. Like how we have Reserve Bank in India, we have Reserve Bank or the central bank of the foreign country. There they have to be registered so that we know it is not some scam or some transaction which we are trying to do money laundering. That is the rule. So if you follow all these rules, so if you see here, the investment, the financial commitments are subject to the conditions. Yes, here we studied you can invest 400% of your net worth in the automatic route. Correct? This is what we are doing. But if you invest 400%, you have to follow all these conditions also, which is given. The 8 conditions. Please go through this again. You can watch this video again for this part because these conditions are important. Once we know all these 8 conditions, now let us look at the method of funding. See, end of the day, what we are understanding, Indian party. Indian party means we understood it can be company, it can be a Indian LLP, or it can be partnership firm. Correct? Indian party can invest automatic route 400% of the net worth. Okay, very good. But then how do we fund that? Where do we get the money from? So these are the methods of funding. So the first method, as you can see here, is drawal of foreign exchange. So you can draw foreign exchange and then you can invest it. Next, capitalization of the exports. Then swapping of shares. So you can exchange the shares from that company to this company, that is swapping of shares. Proceeds of ECB, FCCB. So external commercial borrowing. You've taken loan from some foreign company. That money you can use for funding this project. Okay, foreign currency convertible bonds also you can use for the funding this the entire transaction. Exchange proceeds of ADR, GDR, American Depository Receipt and Global Depository Receipt. So this is the money from which you can take and you can do overseas direct investment. The Indian entity, Indian party can invest abroad. So these are the methods of funding. Now let us look at the general permission for Indian resident for purchase of acquisition of shares or company abroad. So this is most important, abroad. Okay. First thing, out of funds held in the resident foreign currency account. So the permission for Indian resident is that he or she can use the money which he or she has in the resident foreign currency account. Or the next thing is bonus for existing holding. So in the bonus which you get, that is also the thing which you can use the money. Non-permanently resident in India out of their foreign currency outside India. So somebody is non-permanent resident in India and they have some money abroad. That money can be used for purchase or acquisition of shares. So this is from where you can take the money. Now let us look at what are the investments that require approval of the Reserve Bank of India, RBI approval. Energy and natural resources sector. So we need Reserve Bank of India permission. Unincorporated entities in oil sector. Proprietorship concern and partnership firm. Registered trust society in manufacturing, hospital, education sector. Corporate guarantee to SDS. Then restructuring of balance sheet of JV or wholly owned subsidiary. If you are making, you have to remember this. So whatever investments you are making in these kind of entities, you need the Reserve Bank of India permission. This is very, very clear. It is approval. So no matter how much money, it is not important. So money may be very less also. We don't see that. We need to go for the approval of Reserve Bank if we had to make investment of these kind of entities which is in a foreign country. If it is in India, no problem. If it is foreign country, we have to look at it very, very clearly. This is important for us to know. Next, the another concept we need to know after this is related to issues in choosing locations outside India. What are the issues we need to think when we are locating outside India? If we want to have a business outside India, what are the things that we have to see? So geographical locations of business is important for us to know, and let us have a look at this here. So geographical locations of business, when I am there, I have to first see the infrastructure. Suppose if I want to open the company in some small island, so there is one island which is like Fiji. It is somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. It is above Australia, somewhere it will come there. Correct? There I don't have so many airport storage facilities and all. But if I want to open in United States of America, it's a very big country, successful country. Correct? Or Russia or Japan, then it is a more better option. Correct? Or any of the countries which are upcoming now, like Brazil and all, we have the facilities there. So this is the important thing. Access for transportation, like road, rail, how good is it? Then relevance of the supply chain. So how is the supply chain there? Then talent pool, that is the human resource. How will the employees be there? These things I have to think, and then I have to choose where I should open outside India, where I should invest. Next, we have to see the economic and technological aspects. So once we see geography, this is Roman number 1. These are the things. The Roman number 2 comes to economic and technological aspects. So ease of doing business, cost of doing the business in that country. So in some countries, for example, in UAE, United Arab Emirates, to even take a office on rent, it is very, very costly. Costly rent is there. So you have to think properly, what is the cost of doing business, and then you should start. If it's a very small business, this will become a big factor. If it's a very big business, rent will not be a very big factor. So depending on that. Then ease of doing business. So suppose if you're in some African country where laws are very strict, government is not stable, suddenly there'll be some terrorist attack. In such case, your business will suffer. Or if you're in middle of Iraq, suddenly war comes. So you should see all that before you invest. Laws relating to the labor. So how good or how easy it is for us to maintain the labor laws. Laws relating to taxation. Suppose you open the business but taxation is 50%. The whole idea of you to open abroad will become waste. Correct? Then intellectual property protection, like copyright. Then we have trademark, patent, all these things, intellectual property right protection. How easy is it in that country? So when you take a decision as a company secretary also, if you are consulted, you should think of all this, then advise the board. Then power, communication, quality and cost, how fast is the internet, things like that. You should see all that. So political and social aspect, friendly countries, most favored nation status. Suppose Pakistan. See, generally India and Pakistan having lot of problems, so it is not a very friendly country to India. In fact, it is generally seen as an enemy country. What we have to see is that because it is seen like that, and politically we are not very friendly, and there is a very difficult history which we are sharing with the country like Pakistan, it is not suitable to start a business in Pakistan. Correct? So the social and political aspect also become important. You may think, how is this connected? But it is definitely connected. After economic and technological, political and social aspect will also be important. Long-standing established legislative, or is it suddenly like Afghanistan, if you want to do, so Taliban will be there, problems like that. Or North Korea, you have military rule there. Relation with your neighbors and nearing country, then expatriate friendliness, how friendly is that country with India? Like recently, UAE has become very friendly to India, which is very good news because UAE is helping to extradite people in cases in India. Like Christian Michel was extradited to India by UAE, which is a very big achievement because only because UAE has become a good friend of India, this is possible. Correct? Then interaction between both nation entities. So how is the interaction going on and things like that. So these are broadly what you have to think while you're choosing location outside India. So geographical location of business, economic technological aspect, and the political and social aspects. So this comes to the end of this short but important lesson of setting of business outside India and the issues relating thereto. So this is the end of the lesson. In the next lesson, we will be studying chapter number 12.